The following is a live broadcast of a Lone Star community radio program, recorded and broadcasted live on irlonestar.com, Conroe's FM 104.5, 106.1, and facebook.com/irlonestar. For more information on this show, please visit our show page at irlonestar.com/shows. To sponsor or donate to this program, visit our donate page at irlonestar.com/donate, or email us at lscrstudios@gmail.com, or give us a call at 936-666-1084. Lone Star Community Radio production and broadcast is possible by folks like you. So sponsor and donate today.
You are listening to Lone Star Community Radio on 104.5 KCZW LP Conroe and 106.1 KZCC LP Conroe, and worldwide on irlonestar.com.
Good afternoon. Welcome to the Extension Hour. I'm Amy Rustler, County Extension Agent, Family and Community Health. It's a beautiful Friday afternoon, and we're here at Lone Star Radio. With the Extension Hour, we talk about our people, our programs, and our partnerships, and I'm really excited to have a people here today. I mean, we always have people here, but so sometimes the things we talk about are directly related to what we do, and then sometimes it's like those partnerships, and so the people that we have are people who participate in other partnership kind of things, but you're a people and a program and a partnership, so I'm not making any sense as we first start out discussing, but I have Liz Locke with me here today, and she is a Master Wellness Volunteer, which is one of the programs that we have in Extension, and Liz has been volunteering with us for a while, and I've really been impressed with all the conversations that we've had, just kind of the things, the plans that you have as a Master Wellness Volunteer, but just the kinds of things that you do on a daily basis with your kids. You got 3 beautiful boys. So I'm rambling. Talk a little bit about you and your life.
So Amy, thank you so much for having me here. I have really loved the Master Wellness Program and have learned so much even just on the onboarding training and then working with Amy on the different initiatives that we've had. Like Amy mentioned, I have 3 young boys. They're from age 10 down to age 5. And so we have a pretty active household. We try to get out when it's not too hot in the summer and try to just eat healthy as much as possible to kind of keep their energy levels up. As a vocation, I'm an engineer, and I've worked in the Houston area for about 5 years, but I came from Fairfax, Virginia, and was originally from Oklahoma. So Boomer Sooner.
Well, really glad when you called and you said, hey, I read something about this Master Wellness Volunteer Program. I think I would be interested. So I was like, yes. So the Master Wellness Volunteer Program, you go through several hours of training. So it's we've got kind of what we call a hybrid model. So you meet a couple of times with us at the Extension office, and then you kind of do a lot on your own, online, self-paced. And so tell us a little bit about that experience for you.
So with the extension, I really enjoyed that the extension takes university and research-based information and disseminates that to the community and provides volunteers and agents the information to bring that information to people that they can use it, whether in their farming practices or even in their homes and households for healthy living. In my own house, my family and I, we've been over time incorporating different healthful cooking and adjustments into our lives. And often I have friends that ask me, how do you do this or how do you prepare this? And so this is another great opportunity to be able to go out into the community and do the same. Some of the things that I've done with you, Amy, that I've really enjoyed has been the mobile cooking schools and just kind of showing people how with just a few key ingredients and a few techniques you can really make delicious food. And we've had a chance to do that mobile cooking school with children, so even with my sons and some of their friends, and the kids were just loving dishes such as like the kale salad. Everybody was like, this is an amazing salad. So this has been really fun to see people get excited about adding more fruits and vegetables into their diet and kind of adjusting some of the things that they do just to kind of add a little bit more nutrition into their lives.
Yeah, so you go through training, and then you do some what we call them give back hours, or as part of the internship. And so, as you mentioned, helping with the mobile cooking school, and you've been a huge help. Boys have been a huge help, and very entertaining as well. But and then another thing that you did as part of some of your give back hours is help coordinate Walk Across Texas in your neighborhood. And I really love the way you took the model that we have for Walk Across Texas, but really made it work for your neighborhood and for the families in your neighborhood. We have an adult program. We also have a youth program. And in the future, they're working towards a family model, which partly I think is inspired by some of the questions, that you asked and other people asked as well. How do you work it out where families participate together? Because that's something that you guys do just naturally as a family. But tell us a little bit about how you made that work. So your neighborhood Walk Across Texas.
Walk Across Texas was it May?
April. It's
Yeah, it was kind of April,
April
May.
and May. Yeah, we usually start on or about April 1st. April and May.
It happened right when quarantine was happening in the county, right? So we were all suddenly home. Spring break had, ended, and here we are all at home. And with Walk Across Texas, I wanted to have the ability for families to be able to purposely go out and spend some of their time together and also outdoors. It wasn't too hot yet at that point. And so using Facebook is what I did, and I built a Facebook group and just invited people in the neighborhood through other Facebook groups, invited them to come in and join the group. And so we had a good amount of people, both families and also individual adults who may be, single or were just doing it on their own. And it really encouraged people to go out there, and we could post updates and where we were in terms of mileage. And some people became pretty competitive. They were, they were just kind of like cheering themselves on as they went out there. So it was a really fun group. And I even had a one-off group of just one-off people participating, and they were their own little explorer group, so they could compete against the families. So it was a lot of fun. My kids and I, we were out there every day trying to get a few more miles in. I said, come on, we got to get a couple more miles. And so they were having a lot of fun doing that, and they had a couple of friends in the neighborhood doing that with them. So, and Facebook worked really well for that, to just kind of keep people engaged. It's not always the best because it can get a lot of information, but it worked for us for the time being. It was quick to set up.
I kind of have a love-hate relationship with Facebook, but that's a whole different topic.
Yeah.
But with Walk Across Texas, so it's an 8-week project. The goal is for a team to walk 832 miles, which is roughly the distance from Orange, Texas to El Paso, Texas. But just really, it's one of those things, it's just a motivator, to get those 832 miles or more for those really competitive people. So having those, and I think, like I said, the unique thing about what you guys did, and one of the wonderful things is participating as a family, so that as a family, that idea of healthy living is just something that kind of comes naturally to that family. And I think as the kids grow up, that sticks with them, that we were physically active as a family, and it just develops like lifelong habits.
Right.
And we got T-shirts for people this year.
Nice T-shirts.
Yeah, it looks great.
So it's super comfortable, very soft. We're all wearing it all the time. So
it says, I walked across Texas, and all I got was this shirt. And then on the back it says, and a healthier me. So yeah, like you said, this kind of happened with quarantine this year. And we had fewer people participate throughout the county than we had in the past. Just part of it was communication. I mean, there was other things that were much more important with the quarantine happening and all of that kind of thing. But still, we had a really successful program, and so we had a little bit of money left where we were able to do the T-shirts, and then we had some really cool donations that were made so that people had prizes. Because what we did is just anybody we had some random challenges. So if you got 20 miles this week, you get your name in for a drawing for a gift card, so that it wasn't because that natural competitiveness usually is enough to keep people going. And sometimes people can be kind of get a little legalistic, I guess, about well, they anyway. Beside the point,
we had one of our team captains win a prize, and so that was so nice to see, because she was so excited. She got herself, her husband, and two other another couple to walk with them, so they were their own little team.
Very
within
awesome.
Within our what do they call that? Our league.
Yes, you had a league. So as many teams as want can be in a league, or teams can participate individually. And I'd also mention, too, that you can just do that. It's like open all the time. So we try to do our community challenge in April and May. But if someone wanted to do Walk Across Texas now, they totally could. Or if you had a neighborhood group that wanted to do that. So it is walkacrosstexas.tamu.edu. So TAMU.edu, or you can Google Walk Across Texas and usually find it. pretty easily that way. And so how did you feel about the system, right? So you log your miles in.
I mean, I had some feedback from the system, which, I thought it was very easy, but some people wanted to do fancy things like link it to their Strava. They were getting that kind of competitive. But, and that would be really nice to have, but it was easy enough to kind of just put in our miles. I think it was weekly miles is the team group that we did, because we did the, you were saying we don't have quite the family group yet. So I did it as not the adult, the youth league, and then had adults competing on the youth league, which is done as an aggregate. Versus, I think if you do the adult teams, each individual person can put in their times.
Yeah.
It would be good to mix it. I wanted to be able to put the kids in their own buckets and not have parents have to put in 3 different inputs, or however many for kids. But yeah, those things would be great, and it's just nice to see the roll up every week and see where everybody is.
Yeah. So, and then a part of that too, you can, it's not an app, but it's a mobile friendly, so you can put an icon on your phone so that you can put your miles in pretty easily. And that's kind of what I did with my miles when I remembered, and I got to go put them in.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's a great project. And it's one of those things that's always, they're always making it a little better. And I hear what you're saying, and we get feedback like that sometimes too, like people want it even fancier. But really, like I said before, our goal is just let's get people moving more. So it's not necessarily for someone that's training for a marathon or already a hardcore exerciser, although, those people are more than welcome and often enjoy it. It's kind of one of those things for people who just need that little extra just to walk a few more steps this week.
When the weather gets cooler, maybe we can do one with I like the history, walk across Texas history.
Yes.
With all the different stopping points throughout the state with historical significance. So that might be something we could do in the fall in our neighborhood. We'll have to see. Let things cool off a little bit.
Yes, most definitely. And that's one of the reasons why we do it in April, because the weather's warmed up enough, but not hot yet.
Right.
There's that little window that we have here in Southeast Texas.
Almost there.
Yeah,
I hope.
So what you mentioned, walk through Texas history is what it's called, walk through Texas history, and that's just a 4-week project. But as you gain miles, you're able to gain access to historical facts. And so, it's a pretty cool concept, and that's brand new too. So that's one of the things that we are working on. Okay, so we're going to learn more about, like I said, this is one of those things like you guys just do as a family, and I always want to know your secrets. Like how do you get those boys to eat vegetables? So we are going to take a little bit of a break, and we're going to come back, and we're going to hear a little bit more about all the great things that Liz does and how she makes it happen. We'll be back right after this. You're listening to the Extension Hour.
A Lone Star Community Radio is looking for those who are interested in hosting their own talk show, with monthly and weekly slots available on Conroe's FM 104.5, 106.1, and on irlonestar.com. Start your own podcast, create your first YouTube channel, and be on TV. Contact Lone Star Community Radio online at irlonestar.com or call the station message line at 936-647-3776 to take your first step into the radio world.
Hey, this is Wayne Green, your host for Radio Wayne, Spoke and More. Each Saturday from 5 to 7 p.m., I'll be playing folk, singer-songwriter, Americana, blues, bluegrass, classic country, Cajun Zydeco, Celtic swing, and whatever else seems to fit. Once again, that's Radio Wayne, Spoke and More, every Saturday from 5 to 7 p.m. on Lone Star Community Radio.
From the beginning, the main purpose of the Cooperative Extension Service has been to change human behavior by teaching people how to apply the results of scientific research. By utilizing a holistic, multi-level approach, Extension family and community health programs encourage health and well-being for everyone. Addressing values, concerns, and needs with reliable science-based information, Extension programs help people lead healthier lives. We are Texas A&M Agrilife Extension, helping Texans make their lives better.
And welcome back You're listening to the Extension Hour. I've got Liz Locke with me here. She's one of our Master Wellness volunteers. So here on the Extension Hour, we talk about all kinds of things with Extension. We highlight our people, our programs, and our partnerships. And Liz has become one of our very valued volunteers through Master Wellness. And the Master Wellness program is kind of like... So I think part of the idea is that it's like a master gardener program, but with wellness. And, obviously it's going to be just a little different because, gardening, you grow a plant, but, with wellness, we're planting ideas is really what we're doing. But it is one of the programs that we have, an extension that helps us with all of the other programs that we have. And so we try to make the program available for people where they can focus in the area that they want to focus on. So you don't have to do everything that we do in Extension, but whatever your passion is. And, obviously, Liz, you live a very, very healthy life. And as I mentioned before the break, you've got the three young boys that you feed. And it's like, I was just so impressed with them, like the things that they were like, yeah, let's try this vegetable, or, oh, I love tofu. And
Why?
Wow, I know, right?
Yeah. And it's one of those things where we've been implementing over a long period of time. So my oldest is 10. Before that, my husband and I were kind of transitioning away from things that we traditionally ate when we grew up, but may not be as varied in terms of vegetables as we eat now. So we just slowly started incorporating over time. I think I remember we first started with roasted veggies, like roasted sweet potatoes, roasted carrots, these type of things that just bring out the natural sweetness of vegetables. With a little bit of salt or rosemary is very good, right? And quick. But when I had the boys, it's always a challenge to kind of make sure that they are used to kind of eating the variety. Mm-hmm. And so we were always going towards adding as much color as possible. So I'm always telling the boys, are we eating across the rainbow? Have we done these colors that we've done this week? We've done certain things, like sometimes they have a whole lunch where it's just red vegetables, so tomatoes and then apples, and then we've done orange. Orange is an easy one. So we just try to pick a color. So they like that. They have a lot of fun in doing that. I remember a few years ago I was asking somebody, how do I get more vegetables in the boys? And somebody said, just cut them up into little, carrot sticks or broccoli, and see if they like it that way. And so they've liked that, surprisingly, like bell peppers. Yeah. Raw bell peppers they like, as long as it's colored. This is, red, orange, yellow, and not the green ones. Not like that.
They're a little bitter.
But yeah, we just kind of had that available. My husband does a lot of smoothies now. So a few years ago, we were gifted I forget what it's called, but
extra fancy blender.
it was a Ninja. Oh, and so from my in-laws, and so we've been making smoothies since then. One of the tricks that my husband does is he throws a little pineapple into the smoothie. So he throws in all kinds of stuff, but he'll throw in spinach, carrots. So those are pretty strong flavors, and then he'll throw in a little bit of pineapple on top, and blueberries. So just a little bit of pineapple actually goes a long way in terms of adding a little tartness, and it masks enough of the spinach and carrots, so the kids are a little turned off a little bit by the slightly more bitter carrot. The pineapple helps. So pineapple, blueberries, add the fruit. Mm-hmm. They like that. And we do, a lot of different hummuses and bean dips. So you can do that with vegetables. You can do that with tortilla chips. That adds a little bit of that protein to their diet. We are, in my house, we're relatively plant-based now in the house. I used to cook meat, and if we go out to eat or go home to in-laws, they have meat or something, we still enjoy that. But honestly, at home I don't cook meat any longer. It's a little bit easier for myself, because when my oldest was, how old was he? 3? I was marinating some chicken thighs in a fridge that was quite low, and I was hands deep in dish soap, dish water, and he reaches in there and pulls out these dripping chicken thighs. Look, Mommy, what I found. And the mess to clean up after that, and him and everything. I thought, oh my goodness. So over time, we've just kind of moved towards more plant-based at home.
Yeah. Go ahead.
No.
You had mentioned, so you're not strictly vegetarian, just
No.
plant-based, so eat more plants, basically. But how do you make sure that you and the boys get enough protein? I think that's one of the
Yeah.
concerns that a lot of people have.
So we definitely incorporate a lot of beans and lentils in our diet. Lentils are easy because it's just 20 minutes, 20 minutes with some broth, and it adds a lot of flavor. And then we do some tofu. The way I do the tofu is I'll just cube it up, put a little bit of like a barbecue sauce or soy sauce, and just roast it in the oven, and it gets the crispy outside, and then the inside is a little softer. So the boys do eat a lot of the bean products. And then we do have eggs. And then, there's natural protein, and I think in most vegetables that people, it's a little different than meat protein or bean protein, but it is also a protein component in the vegetables. And let's see, my boys will eat vegetables, but how do you put them into things like, if I make a bean soup, at the very end, what I'll do is I'll just, the soup is hot, pressure cookers are great. Soup is hot, and then I'll throw in a bag of frozen spinach and just let that kind of like defrost and in the soup. It kind of cools the soup down a little bit so that we can eat right away. But it adds in a little bit more of that greens into the bean soup. So
Yeah.
I probably throw spinach, carrots on almost everything that we cook, just to.
Yeah.
It's easy.
Yeah, and if it's something that that the kids
Yeah.
will like.
Yeah.
And I wanted to mention or reiterate something that you had mentioned earlier about just having them try it raw by itself. It reminds me of one of our projects that we have, the Learn, Grow, Eat, and Go, which is a school-based curricula, but it can also be adapted for other types of situations too. But one of the things that it does is introduces vegetables to kids. So introducing vegetables to kids as a food and then also as a plant. So the whole gardening part of it, so that they grow it. And sometimes that's one of those other kinds of tricks, I guess.
Yeah.
Say
For sure.
tricks, whatever. But it's a way to get kids interested in trying more vegetables, because if they become invested in growing it, then they're more likely to want to try it because they helped make it grow.
Yeah.
And then the project that includes vegetable tasting, and so it has the kids taste a vegetable in its raw form. And then they have to grade the vegetable, right? So they have to use their 5 senses. So they can't just say, I don't like it.
Yeah.
Ooh, it's gross, whatever. They have to look at the sight and the sound and the taste and the touch and all 5. Anyway, I can't even remember my 5 senses. But so, and then they grade it each. So, and then again, that kind of helps them look at food more critically as well, instead of just, and research has shown us that it takes like 10 to 12 times for
Yeah.
kids to try something before they really know if they like it or not. So they try it in their raw form and then try it in a recipe with some other things, like you mentioned, with another food that might mask that flavor that might be off-putting to begin with. But, as we know, throughout life, our taste buds change, and sometimes we like things that we didn't like when we were younger or whatever.
Yeah, so my youngest is funny because we moved here when he was just 6 months old, and he, I thought I'm gonna garden, so we put in these ginormous garden beds, and I call him Farmer Francis because he's my youngest, right? And he's always been in the garden with me, and what we would grow was those little cherry tomatoes because they grow fast and they're easy, and he would just pick them off and eat them. And so to this day, he loves cherry tomatoes. Anytime I bring them home, he'll grow them, he'll eat them, but then he doesn't like them cooked. If they're in soup, he's like, I don't like them when they're mushy. I just like them when they're fresh and raw. So it's just kind of, I have it still available in the soup. He will eat it, but he's not, loving it as much as he loves it raw.
Right.
But the fact that he's always in the garden with us, and he knows where it comes from, it makes him excited when he sees it in the store, and he knows that it came from a farm as well. So, but yeah, to try stuff, the same little guy who loves red tomatoes, for the longest time hated anything orange, so he would not eat carrots. He would barely eat sweet potatoes. He would not eat them. So then, what I did with them was the older 2 boys would eat those, right? So I would give them more pieces of sweet potato, roasted sweet potato, and then I would give him 1. And so he would know, okay, my expectation is you just try it. You just eat the 1. And he would look over, and his brothers would have 5 or 6 or 7, and they would eat it and happily eat it. And so over time, it's been many years, and over time he now eats them. He doesn't complain. He's enjoying them now, but it took it took several years, and just kind of having it available. The expectation is just try it. It's the one on your plate. Your brother has a lot more. Yeah. And he'll be like, this competitiveness. He was like, oh, I can do this, you know. And so now he's an eater of red, green, and all kinds of vegetable colors. But it took a while.
Yeah.
He was probably the most toughest one to kind of push to try different things.
Yeah. And I like that you emphasized how important it is to be patient. I mean, you know, sometimes parenting can be a little frustrating. You know, it's hard to have patience with some things, but like you said, just keep trying, and eventually,
and you may not, you may not have an alternative all the time. So just kind of like, you know, it's okay. They just get a couple that day. But if you do have an alternative that they like, and I put you know, peas on the plate. He loves peas. But then, okay, here's one also, sweet potato stick. Okay, you know, that's it. Just eat that one. And he's like, okay, you know. Yeah. But, and it has worked. It just took a few years.
Yeah. So the patience and just continuing to offer it, don't give up, and not being high pressure about it either. You know, sometimes, and I do this. Sometimes I get like really, I gotta make sure that I eat the vegetables, and I'm feeling guilty because I'm not eating enough vegetables. And then, you know, kids can pick up on that kind of thing too. And then they're just like, you know, I don't like it at all. And it just kind of, it exacerbates the whole issue and makes it like not a pleasant environment. So eating food should be pleasant and
relaxing and enjoyable. And sometimes, you know, with kids around, it isn't, you know, hurry up, finish up. But, you know, over time, we just kind of relax. If they only eat half of it, okay, it's fine. You know, like, it's more than yesterday, you know, that kind of thing, right? Yeah, we just adjust.
Yeah. Okay, so we have even some more tips to talk about. And, I have been watching on Facebook. I want to talk about your adventures in sourdough, too. We'll talk about that. And then also, I think some tips. Holidays are coming up, so let's talk a little bit about the tips that we have, you know, because under normal circumstances, really good suggestions there, but sometimes it can get more difficult with holidays. So those are two of the things that we're going to talk about when we come back, but we're going to take a quick little break, and we'll be back in just a bit. You're listening to the Extension Hour here on Lone Star Radio 104.5 and 106.1, and we'll be right back.
Listen in Mondays at noon to hear Conroe news from local nonprofits, businesses, upcoming events, Conroe Park events, news stories, and information that matters to you with your host, Margie Taylor of Taylorized PR. For more information about being a guest, visit irlonestar.com/Conroe Culture.
We have the safest food supply in the world. Strict laws and regulations restrict the usage of hormones, antibiotics, and pesticides within our food supply. Production agriculture practices and technologies such as the use of GMOs, which is not any more or less risky than conventional crop production, has allowed American farmers to produce more food on less acres in environmentally sound ways. Find out more online at pathtotheplate.tamu.edu. We are Texas A&M Agrilife Extension, helping Texans make lives better.
Don't forget to download the Lone Star Community Radio app for your Google Play or Apple Store. Bring Montgomery County's community radio with you anywhere with your smartphone or tablet. If you are in the Conroe area, tune in on FM. That is Conroe's FM 104.5, 106.1.
And we're back again. We're talking with Liz Locke, three boys, getting them to eat healthy. Being a working mom, working family, lots of things going on. But so during quarantine, you've been able to spend a little bit more time at home. Your kids are currently doing the school from home, but that has allowed you to do some extra kind of educational things. And as I mentioned before we went to the break, you've been adventures with sourdough. You've got all these beautiful pictures of these sourdough bread that you've been making.
So my friend Cindy Tan, she got me hooked on making sourdough bread because she was making these beautiful loaves. She had made her own starter, and she gave me one, which means it's just another beast you have to feed. You know, if you don't feed it, you feel guilty. But it's been very fun to make our own breads. I think a lot of people have been doing little things like that at home because if they've had the chance to be home, they've been a little more creative. from there, she's been doing a lot of intricate cutting, scoring of the loaves. So we've had fun with doing that, just kind of seeing what designs we have. My boys love to be, figure out their own designs. But I've been trying to get them into trying to manipulate the dough themselves and not hovering over them. Because as soon as they learn how to do it a few times, it becomes a little easier to know how to deal with sticky dough and things like that. And they get super excited that they have a product at the end that they're proud of. It could be a little denser than than a very fancy loaf, but it's still very good and very tasty. So we've had a lot of fun. My husband and I have tried to get them into the kitchen as much as possible. For a while now, they've been in charge of packing their own school lunches when we were going to school. They eat pack lunch about 4 days a week, and they usually eat the pizza when pizza day comes, of course, at school. But we always tried to make sure that they had one main item, which is a sandwich or cheese and crackers or something, one vegetable, one fruit. That was just, and if they didn't have time to finish it, bring it home, and we can have it for afternoon snack if they can bring it home. So, it's relatively quick to pack, and they do it. They just cut with our supervisions using the knife, and they feel really proud that they get to pick it versus us telling them you're going to have bell peppers today and let's just be happy.
And they're more likely to eat it.
They're more likely to eat it. Mm-hmm.
But you give them some boundaries, right? So you say you've got it. You have to have one of
these three. It's pretty simple, and then and then they can go from there. But because they have that sense of ownership of it, they really do usually finish everything, bring it home, and if they didn't finish it, they'll eat it at home. But I really haven't had too many issues there. They're happy to pack their stuff, and we'll help out, of course, if they're just getting late.
So we also mentioned holidays are coming up, right? So Halloween's around the corner, then we'll have Thanksgiving, and then we have Christmas, and then we have New Year's, and then we have Valentine's Day and birthdays and end of school, and so really, I'm being kind of a little bit sarcastic, but there's kind of a reason why you could celebrate, and often one of the things that we want to do when we celebrate is splurge a little bit, eat a little bit more than maybe we normally would. So you've been describing some of the things that you guys do at your house, and it sounds like you never have a problem.
No, we definitely do. When they were in swim meets, I would always splurge by getting us a big, nice bag of Doritos or Cheetos, and that was our swim meet, snack when we hit. So we're always looking forward to those. We definitely love, like everyone else, like salty snacks and candies and sweets, and we just we try to keep them limited to the fact that, like, if we were really hungry and there was a bag of chips, I'm gonna pick that first, of course. Yeah. So we try to kind of keep those at just certain times. We do have them available, and the candies. Like Halloween's gonna come. Our neighborhood is very generous. We usually come home with 3 ginormous bags of candy.
Right.
And that first night or so, I'll usually let the boys have at it. They can just eat what they want, try what they want, and eat everything. And then usually at that point, we, within a day or so, we put it all into a family bucket, and that goes up in the cabinet. It's not at eye view when we open up our pantry. It's up. And so if they want a piece, we definitely have it. But it's just not available on our minds. So it's just tucked away for us. Yeah. And then, of course, we enjoy the candy. And then with holidays, the same thing. Holidays, birthdays, we enjoy, pizzas and cakes and all those things. But we're always talking to the boys about, this is a nice time to enjoy this because it's the holidays and we're together as a family. But on a normal basis, we're trying to kind of make sure that we eat, balanced and vegetables and drink water and these type of things on a 90% of the time, trying to kind of keep that balance, but definitely enjoy the food that you're having that may be a little bit more indulgent.
Yeah. I think what you're describing is really helping them develop a healthy relationship with food.
Mm-hmm. One time I remember my youngest was eating a cupcake when it was, one of those ones from school that's so large, and we're like, you can have it, it's your cupcake, and he eats it, and about halfway through he's like, I'm so full of cupcake. And I was like, yes, well, it's good that your body's telling you you've had enough sugar, so we'll put it aside, and if you want to finish that one later, you can do it another time. But and then he kind of knows his own cue that I don't feel like I have to stuff myself with this, right? Like I can set it aside for later, enjoy it later.
Yeah, those excellent tips. So speaking of tips, let's talk a little bit more about ways to get your child into healthy eating, other types of things that you've you've done that you can think of?
Trying to think through. Like I said, we just started letting them have a little bit more say in what they're eating.
Mm-hmm.
We might say, "Oh, it's lunchtime. What would you guys, these are the vegetable options today, and I'll make you guys an egg, and here we go. What would you like?"
Mm-hmm.
So they have a little bit of say in each of those. They started making bean dips from themselves.
Yeah.
So just using the food processor, a couple of canned beans, and then some simple spices, onion powder, garlic powder, paprika, and that's their bean dip. And so they've been happily making those. And we do talk about it. We do talk about it. Like if there's something they didn't like that I made, sometimes I make squash and it's just too squishy, and they don't like it. I want to ask them why. What do they not like about it? Because they might like it in another form. Beets are one of those.
Yeah.
So steamed beets, they're not a huge fan of. But if I roasted them with a little bit of olive oil and salt, they were just like, "This is phenomenal," and I could cut beets up all day. Usually it was just myself eating the beets,
Mm-hmm.
So that was something that I learned, was maybe trying a different way of making it.
Yeah. And you've shared with me before too about some of the things that you do that sounds like you mentioned it's kind of like second nature to you, but I'm like, no, people, not everybody knows to do that. You were talking about some kind of, was it chickpea flour?
Chickpea flour.
Yeah, let's talk about that.
So I got this from the Indian store, but you can get it from Kroger as well. Indian store just comes in a bigger container. It's chickpea flour, just made with dried chickpeas and ground up. You use it very similarly to how you would use, you can incorporate it into dishes and it'll kind of help bind things together. So let's say I made this one dish, it's like fritters, like shredded carrots and onions, and then you put in a little bit of spices, like cumin, a little bit of cumin, and then you use the chickpea powder and you just sprinkle like a half a cup on there. And that kind of absorbs the moisture in the carrots, and then you can form them into little fritters and you can bake them or fry them, but in our case we baked them, and they were really good, and they kind of held together. They add that extra level of protein, and they don't add any extra flavor, like any off-putting flavor or anything like that. It's just pure carrot, like a roasted carrot, but it's in fritter form.
Nice.
So it was really nice, and simple to do actually. So you just add that in instead of typical flours.
And the advantage to that too, it's gluten-free.
It's gluten-free, yeah.
And nutrient profile is probably pretty similar, but
yeah. So it just adds that extra protein from bean protein, right?
Right.
Without having, some people can be not a fan of the actual bean necessarily, but the chickpea flour just adds just a little bit more. So that's a fun find. We've been using that. And actually it's used in vegan recipes to make egg replacements.
Ah.
So there's a certain salt called black salt that has a kind of sulfur smell. You can use a little bit of that. It can make a nice little omelet.
Mm-hmm.
But it's different. It's almost like a pancake, but not really. A little lighter than a pancake.
Yeah.
So we're not vegan, but we've been kind of exploring some different areas to kind of, like instead of cream, you can put cauliflower into a soup and then puree that, and that cauliflower adds a little bit of that creaminess to it. So it's kind of interesting.
And so how did you discover these kinds of things?
I love cookbooks, but I'm actually mostly been going on, online and just kind of searching to see if we can find anything. Like Agrilife has, recipes listed, and there are a plethora of information online that you can find and compare recipes. Does this recipe make sense? Or is it too? For me, if I look for a recipe, it needs to be as minimal pots as possible, as minimal, different manipulations. I'm not going to, do it 5 different ways before I serve it, right? So I just try to kind of put everything together and make it as much of a one-pot dish as possible.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah,
I do that a lot too.
Yeah. I'll scour recipes and say, can I take this step out and just add it in? It may not be as, professional, I don't know, but it's just definitely faster.
But it works for you.
Yes.
And I think that's, one of the key points that we want to make here is find out what works for your family.
Yeah.
Try new things, but, and keep trying. I mean, be diligent about trying, but just try new things because you never know what your family might end up enjoying.
Right.
And you'd mentioned some of the Agrilife resources. So one of my favorites is Dinner Tonight. So it's either dinnertonight.org or dinnertonight.tamu.edu. But it has some great recipes. So you can search by ingredient. You can search by type. And most of those are pretty quick, economical, and definitely nutritious. I mean, they all have specific standards that they have to meet to be put on that website. But I like that one a lot too. So you have provided so many great tips for us, and we're going to take a little bit of a break. We're going to come back, and I've got 10 tips for building a healthy meal. So they sound really good, right? But I want to know how you apply this in your life and your family. Like, so how do you make these happen? So I'll give you just a second to think about that while we take a break, and we'll be back in just a few minutes here on the Extension Hour.
What can the Better Living for Texans program do for you? You can learn how to increase your consumption of fruits and vegetables, choose foods that are relatively inexpensive and good to eat, make your food dollars last longer, prepare quick, nutritious meals, help your children learn how to eat healthier snacks, and much more. Our program is committed to helping people like you improve your health through providing research-based nutrition education in a friendly, cost-free, and relaxed environment. We are Texas A&M Agrilife Extension, helping Texans make their lives better.
A Lone Star Community Radio is Montgomery County's radio station with talk, music, weather, and traffic for Montgomery County. Have a question or comment about one of our shows? Want to know how to reach a host? Just contact the station at irlonestar.com or call in and leave a message at 936-647-3776. Get involved with your community with Lone Star Community Radio.
Hey y'all, it's DJ Mike from Dan Simon, Texas. Join me Monday through Friday at 8 a.m. as I count down the top 10 Texas Red Dirt songs that are packing the dance floor. I'll be featuring local artists and the story behind the hits, shows in the area, as well as new songs that make you want to dance. It's Dance Time in Texas with DJ Mike on Lone Star Community Radio, 104.5 KCZW and 106.1 KZCC, Conroe, Texas, or online, irlonestar.com.
Welcome back. I'm Amy Rustler. I've got Liz Locke, Master Wellness Volunteer here in Montgomery County, and we've been talking about all the cool things that Liz does with your three boys who like vegetables. They like tofu. But they are happy, healthy boys, and it's always inspiring to me to see that. So I really appreciate you being with us today and sharing some of the tips that you have. So what we do often is we recommend USDA, so United States Department of Agriculture, My Plate is the basis of good nutrition. So there's a lot of eating patterns that are based on My Plate. And one of the things that I try to remind people too is if an eating pattern or a diet is really extreme, usually they work for a short amount of time because if you take out a full food group or a couple food groups, you're going to cut down your calories quite a bit and you're going to lose some weight. But is that sustainable long term? So the idea of My Plate, it's not necessarily like a prescription for how to eat, but it is just a really good guide for eating healthy for anybody. So it needs to be adapted for families and individuals, and depending on where you're at in the lifespan and any kind of medical situations that are happening and that kind of thing, you might make some adjustments to it. But in general, My Plate is just a really good guide for how to eat. So I've got a list here of My Plate, how to build a healthy meal. So it's 10 tips for building a healthy meal. So
I see how many of these we actually follow. It's a challenge.
Yep. So this is a test. Yeah. All right. So the first one is make half your plates veggies and fruit.
So I guess we don't measure it necessarily, but I always try to see can I add one more? Can I add one more vegetable in the dish we have? So can I roast a couple of potatoes and put it in there? Can I cut a cucumber and put it on top, like on the side or something? And just see if we can just add like one more vegetable from the main dish, say.
Okay. Number 2, include whole grains.
So we do a lot of brown rice. We have done quinoa. We've done barley. Quinoa probably more. And so we do have a little bit of that. Whole wheat breads, if we have it. We've been doing tortillas. tortillas are good.
Yeah.
Although the flour tortillas have just been good, so I don't know. They're not whole wheat.
Yeah. So corn is whole grain.
Yeah, corn.
So corn tortillas, and then they even make those blended ones that are corn and flour. So you're getting a little bit more. And and as we've mentioned, all of this in moderation. All right, number 3. Don't forget the dairy.
So we have done cheese. We don't drink milk in our house because we've got lactose things, but we can do cheese, we can do ice cream, and we can do yogurts. So we do have maybe a little bit on the side or something to dip in. If I've made like a falafel, little chickpea falafels, they can dip it in yogurt. So yeah.
And one of the things that's important about the dairy group and why it's included is the calcium content that's in it. But things like broccoli and spinach actually are really good sources of calcium. So that's a one way you can replace that.
Oh, I keep talking about roasted vegetables, but roasted broccoli has been a big hit.
Yeah.
Just like you have roasted kale chips. You've seen those recipes with the kale chips. The roasted broccoli has been a hit for the boys. They like the crunchy crisp. For some reason, that's worked for us lately.
Good. So. All right, number 4, add lean protein.
So we definitely have the bean and lentil groups. We eat quite a lot of nuts. And of course, if you can add lean chicken or fish.
Sure. And just to add to that too, like the lean sources of beef, chicken, turkey, whatever, the way you cook it is important too. So bake or broil, fried sometimes, but not all the time.
Right.
Tofu's on here.
Yes, tofu.
What is that recipe that your boys like?
So it's just a roasted tofu. You use the extra firm tofu and you just cube it up and you put a little bit of it's a Asian barbecue sauce. You put a little bit of that, a little bit of soy sauce, maybe a touch of oil to kind of keep it and roast it in the oven for about 20 minutes, and eat it on a rice bowl.
All right, number 5, avoid extra fat.
Yeah.
We can just leave it at that. Try not to add a whole lot, like heavy gravy sauces. You talked about steamed broccoli. Like a lot of people like a lot of cheese sauce on it, so maybe just a little bit of Parmesan cheese that's low fat, or squeeze a lemon on.
That's good.
Yeah. All right, number 6, get creative in the kitchen.
I mean, I think just getting in the kitchen. I think a lot of people, if you're nervous about the kitchen because you haven't followed this recipe and stuff like that, it's just sometimes it might not work out, but you try it again the next time or adjusting, and you kind of get a feel for how things would turn out and the timing of stuff, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes recipes can be very daunting and a lot of steps, right?
Right.
Yeah.
I agree. And like you mentioned the mobile cooking school earlier, and that's one of the things that we try to do is just keep them pretty simple and give people the chance to try something just, a little different, just experience, even if it's something that, people maybe take for granted. And then the other thing that I've figured out, or what I've learned, is the different ways I try things, then sometimes I get to where I don't even really need a recipe. It's just kind of, I know this goes well with that, and that tastes pretty good, and we can add some extra vegetables with this, and that'll be a good flavor combination. Even flavor combinations, like some, there's some that you wouldn't think that go together until you try it, and then you go, oh, that's not too bad after all.
Exactly. And what I like about the mobile cooking school is you're cooking with friends, essentially people that you meet, and everyone has a little technique or something. Oh, try cutting it this way. Same thing at home.
Yeah.
I've learned some things with my boys, and they'll be like, "Mommy, this is cutting apples." I was cutting them, in half and quartering. And my son just cuts off the two sides and then the side like this. And so then he just cuts this little square core middle, and then he can actually. So I was like, I learned from my 10-year-old about how to cut apples more efficiently.
There you go.
But you can just do it with your family and see what you can come up with.
Yep. And I think just giving your kids permission.
Yes. Yeah.
Like just because this is the way you were taught to do it,
exactly.
or the way your mom did it, doesn't necessarily mean that that's the only way to do it.
Yeah.
All right, number 7 is take control of your food, which is like eating at home more often
versus eating out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, who doesn't like to eat out? You get it served right there to you, right?
Right.
But making the kitchen more fun and trying out some things that you do definitely just helps to build your skill and your muscle of cooking and learning.
And when you eat at home and you prepare it, you know exactly what's in it, as opposed to, going out to eat often. The size of the plate is like enough for 2, but our brains tell us it's one plate. I should eat all of this, and so we tend to eat overeat when we eat out and probably consume
Too much salt.
more calories. Yeah. Excessive salt, extra fat, all those kinds of things. All right, number 8, try new foods. Yeah.
Yeah. Pick one. Just say, I want to try this today, and try a couple of different ways of making it. Like I said, we were doing beets recently, and that's been a big one. We've been fermenting the beets. You know how people make sauerkraut?
Right.
A similar way. So you just add salt and let the beet natural juices come out, and that adds a little salty, sweet crisp to it, and that's all you add to it. And all of my boys have been eating fermented beets, which is like sauerkraut. So it's similar to just eating sauerkraut.
Yeah. So do you guys have anything on your to be tried list?
tried
like
list.
something that you haven't tried yet that you're trying, that you're thinking, I'm going to sneak this in?
So surprisingly, we're of Asian descent, but my boys have not eaten a lot of Asian vegetables like bok choys, other greens. Asians eat quite a lot of the leafy greens, and so we've been trying to incorporate more of that in them. And it's steamed with a little bit of garlic and stuff, garlic sauce on top. So that's been something we've been trying new for them. For them to see something so dark and so green right in front of their plate, they were a little bit like, but that's been fun. We've been trying different ones.
Cool. All right, number 9, satisfy your sweet tooth in a healthy way.
So this one we like. We like to do dehydrated vegetables. So we do have a dehydrator, but we dehydrate bananas and apples are the easiest. I don't even add lemon on the banana. People add lemon on it to kind of keep it from turning brown. We don't even do that, and it's like candy. As soon as that banana has just like dried up, all that sweetness is there, and they eat that like candy. I can't keep up with them. But the apples are also good with a little bit of cinnamon, and you dry it that way. So dried fruits are all over our house. Sometimes I add in a few chocolate chips to make a little trail mix. So we've got dry fruit, chocolate chips, and nuts. And then they've been munching on that. They take it on their adventures throughout the neighborhood.
Okay, and then number 10, everything you eat and drink matters. And I heard you give a few little tips, throughout this conversation that we've had about this, like drinking water more often, trying new things, the list that you gave the boys for their lunches, so making decisions within boundaries, those kinds of things. So, I mean, this is a good tip, right? Just be mindful that the things that you eat and drink matters, and not like mindlessly eat, because that's where we get in trouble. But this one sounds very serious, like everything you eat and drink matters. Don't want people to take it that way, but just being mindful.
Right. And giving yourself some grace too. I mean, if you have a bag of chips instead, or you just grab something quick, it's not, your body can handle that overall, but then the rest of your time, how are you incorporating some more healthful things to help your body balance?
Yeah. Well, I think you have shared just some wonderful information. So, it can be done. Getting voiced.
And we're always adjusting.
Yeah. So any last thought or something that you want to leave the listeners with?
No, I mean, I really appreciate coming here to speak with you, and I'm always happy to share and learn from people, their ways of doing things and different techniques. And then if we have some tips that you could incorporate, that we're always happy to share as well. Yeah. My boys are advocates too when they go to school, and they, they're eating a bell pepper, and their friend is, what is that? And then they can speak it up. I like how crispy it is. But we really enjoy it, and we try to kind of keep a good, healthy view of it, right? Because it's something you're going to do every day. And let yourself have some fun with it.
All right. So if people are listening, if you're interested in the Master Wellness Volunteer Program, you can contact us at the Extension Office. So our number is 936-539-7825. And actually every county has an Extension service, and most of them have Master Wellness Volunteers as well. So there's a way to get connected wherever you're at. And so like I said, it's just great to have a different perspective helping us with our programming and sharing information. So thank you so much for being with us here today. Liz Locke, Master Wellness Volunteer, Engineer, Mom Extraordinaire.
Thank you, Amy.
Thank you so much, and thanks for listening to the Extension Hour. People, programs, partnerships with Texas A&M Agrilife Extension Service, and we'll be back next week.
Today's show was recorded and broadcasted live on irlonestar.com, Conroe's FM 104.5, 106.1, and all rights and ownership are reserved to Lone Star Community Radio. For more information regarding this program and Lone Star Community Radio, visit us online at irlonestar.com. Lone Star Community Radio is Montgomery County's community radio station, serving the community with local programming on TV, radio, and online. If you enjoyed today's program, please support us by sponsorship or starting your own show. Contact us today by phone or text at 936-666-1084 or email the station at lscrstudios@gmail.com.